and ruin their ritual guardian. About these hive rituals.
Alright, so here's a video showing last week's Pisops Moon Battlegrounds Grandmaster. If you have the Grandmaster Nightfall's node available to you, if you're already a Conqueror, then, and if you haven't already done Pisops Moon, then you can still do it at any time until the season is over. Once you complete it, then obviously you won't have it available on the node any longer. But I do believe that this Grandmaster, seeing as we have Grandmasters for a few more weeks than we have previously, Pisops Moon should be in rotation again for GM before the season ends. So you can actually hopefully take what you learn from this video and apply it to your Pisops Moon Grandmaster run whenever that may be. I've been farming this pretty much the entire week. Actually, this is all I did. I wasn't sure how this GM was going to play out or if I was really going to enjoy it, but I did in fact want the Braytech Osprey. I do have arguably a better Void rocket launcher anyways with the red herring, but I wanted to get my hands on a few rolls of the Braytech just for just for novelty's sake, and you never know when a high impact rocket launcher could be good or even meta. So I'm just joining up on a random LFG team right now. I did about 10, maybe a little bit more, 10 or 12 successful platinum runs this week. And I found the most success just creating my own posts on the Destiny 2 app under the Fire Team tab. And generally I will post like, GM, know what to do, invis preferred, platinum, and then if I'm the one that's hosting the LFG, then I'll make sure to talk on mic when the people join me. I don't like kick people if they're not hunter. I'm just saying invis is preferred. So if I can get at least one other invis hunter, then I'm an open book. I don't really care who the third is. If it's a Stormcaller or Berserker, or even a well lock, I'm fine with that. Usually 2 invis hunters can get the job done. Even 1 invis hunter. But all around, if you can get in a team where it's just 3 Night Stalkers, this is going to be, I think, by far the easiest way to do this GM. And this is mainly just coming from the perspective of random fire teams. So you don't know these people, they don't know you, you're not coordinating your builds together or anything. It just so happened that the 2 people that joined me were Night Stalkers, and it just so happened that one was using Graviton, the other was using Omnioculus, and I was using Gyrfalcons. Actually, this was not my fire team. I joined on this fire team that I found, simply because the description of the fire team was platinum, do not cross basically that staircase in front of me. So there's a bug with this Nightfall that prevents you from getting platinum. So if you're just going for your clear, you don't have to worry about it. If you're just trying to gild your conqueror, if you don't care about, you know, getting the loot at the end, it doesn't really matter. But if you're doing this like me, you know, 10 or more times during the week because you want to get a whole bunch of Braytechs, you obviously need to get platinum. So I've found basically towards the end of the week was that it's just generally safer to play this whole encounter basically from right here where all three of us are. If somebody in your fire team pushes up past that tunnel on the staircase where that unstoppable was, basically at that middle column, like if they pass that threshold of that column right there, it is going to spawn the Cabal, like the allied Cabal, along with a whole bunch of enemies, including the light bearer knight, and then that just kind of opens up the door to screw up and basically kill the wrong champions at the wrong time, which sounds confusing because it is. But basically, if you can just avoid going past that middle column on that staircase, then you don't even have to worry about the knight. The only thing you really have to worry about is trying to kill all the barrier champions before the unstoppables. And I think it's primarily just the third unstoppable, the third and final unstoppable. If you kill that unstoppable and there's still a barrier left, then it is going to give you a gold rating at the end, and you're going to be like, what the hell? Yeah, so I just I don't take any chances with this Nightfall. I just try not to push up past that middle column, try not to spawn the knight, and whenever there's champions up, just kill the barriers first. Another thing is too, like if you do push up to the top of the staircase and there's an unstoppable and it sees you, it'll aggro, and then you'll have no choice but to kill the unstoppable because it'll be aggroed on you or somebody on your fire team. And so it's either you got to sit there and repeatedly stun the unstoppable over and over again while you look for the other barrier to kill first, which is not practical because then you basically have two on your fire team focusing the barrier while the other one is focusing on stunning the unstoppable. So it's just not a good situation. But yeah, basically just play it back. Typically, people are running Wish Ender, which is good, especially for long range and having infinite ammo and being able to break barrier shields. And because Wish Ender is so prevalent, it is basically the meta exotic of choice for this Nightfall. It means that I can use something else like Le Monarch, and which synergizes well with Gyrfalcons, and it kind of complements the two Wish Enders because I'm making Le Monarch has the same range basically as Wish Ender because it's a bow, and so I can basically do poison tick damage to targets and make them volatile while my teammates are shooting them with Wish Ender. So rather than have just three of us using Wish Ender, which would do, you know, would obviously do triple the damage, but why not have somebody that's also ticking away at their damage with poison damage? And like I said, it just flows very well with the Gyrfalcon's Hauberk build. If you are the only hunter for this Nightfall, then you might want to consider using Omnioculus or Graviton Forfeit with Trapper's Ambush instead of Gyrfalcon's Hauberk. Although you could use Gyrfalcon's Hauberk with Trapper's Ambush and be fairly effective, but my strength stats are not good enough really to cycle Trapper's Ambush. And I just prefer Vanishing Step because it's just it's the gameplay loop that I'm used to with Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, is dodging to get my invis and my volatile rounds all in one shot and reloading my weapon. So typically I'm running like a machine gun. It means I can automatically reload my machine gun and give it volatile rounds. So yeah, So right now we're just slowly ticking away at all the enemies on the bridge, basically until we get an objective update, and then we're going to move forward. But yeah, so this was a random LFG team, and if you haven't used LFG for whatever reason, I don't know why you wouldn't, because it is basically matchmaking. So I mean, if you are one of those people that is always complaining that there's no matchmaking in the game, well, I mean, it's 2023. If you don't have the Destiny app, and that's not to say that Bungie shouldn't have in-game LFG or a matchmaking feature. I think they should, obviously. The same applies to them. Bungie, it's 2023. Where's the in-game LFG? But nonetheless, like most games or live service games, we have an app, and you can easily join fire teams through the app or make your own fire team. So yeah, so while I was farming this week, I ended up making most of the runs myself, and then just getting either a couple of hunters or at least one other hunter, and then just doing runs that way. And that basically gave me the ability to communicate with my teammates and make sure that we are all on the same page as far as how to get this Nightfall done to get platinum. And really, it's just this first encounter, and after that, everything is easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's not complicated in the sense that we have to figure out what kind of bugs we need to work around with the game. So, yeah. So, but in this case, like I'm saying, I ended up joining on someone else's fire team, but that's because the way that they were describing the like the post was described as do not move past the center column, platinum, invis. Basically, it was basically like the same type of posting that I would make. So I'm like, okay, this guy's on the same page as me. This should be fairly easy. So I got in the fire team, and we had a quick, 1 minute debrief, just kind of going over how we're going to do it. And, we're all on the same page, so we went from there. So yeah. So for this next section here, once you kill these two barriers, then you get to the ritual site where you have to kill the wizards and dunk the tributes in the fountains. And I believe the only thing you need to consider for that part is that you kill all the champions, obviously, before you finish dunking all 12 tributes. So if you see that you're on like 11 of 12 tributes and there's still a champion up, then don't dunk the last tribute, because you probably won't get platinum. But yeah, so there's that. As far as the strategy for the ritual, I think my controller died here, so that's why I'm just kind of standing still. But I think the one that was in charge of the fire team just quickly said, I like to go to the back, which is the same thing I like to do. Whenever I play this, it's always, if all three of us are on the same page and we all go straight through to the back staircase, then the champions will follow us there, instead of, like, if one person stays in the, like, if you're on a no mic run and nobody's communicating, and one or two people stay at the front and one person goes to the back, then you're splitting up the fire team, and then you can't fire team focus the champions, because they're going to be aggroed on one side or the other. So your run can fall apart pretty quick if everybody's just kind of all over the place. But yeah, so if you go right back here to this back staircase, it is the enemies, except for a few thrall, are not going to push past the staircase. I believe the unstoppable will, because it's an unstoppable and it just charges. But the unstoppable is always dead before it could even really get to the staircase, especially if all three of us are there focusing it. So once you get these first 2 champions out of the way, then then you need to dunk 4 tributes in this fountain that we're the one that's closest to us. After 4 tributes, then a shrieker spawns in the middle of the map, and so you need to take cover immediately because the shrieker could just melt you. And actually, my 1 death in this run was because I was just kind of carelessly, from this safe position, I was jumping up and down. I was just jump shotting the shrieker, and it just basically one-shot me. So that was my only death in this run. But yeah, the shrieker can instantly melt you. But so once you do get rid of the shrieker, then after you dunk 2 or 3 more tributes, I'm not sure on the exact number, but it's roughly at the halfway point of the tribute dunking for this encounter. You're gonna get 2 more champions that spawn. So again, it's gonna be another barrier and another unstoppable. So we do a quick shout out when the champs are gonna spawn. That way we could all go meet at the back of the map again, and we can team focus those 2 champs and then get back to killing wizards and dunking tributes. The other major enemy in this encounter that you need to consider is the Lucent Hive Light Bearers. They're the acolyte, so the hunters that throw out their blade barrage. They tend to station at the right and left fountains. They will push up, so they can aggro on you, in which case you pretty much need to kill it. But if it stays over by the left and right fountains the entire time, you can essentially ignore it. But you can't ignore the audio cues of when it casts its blade barrage, because if it has any line of sight on you at all from any range, that blade barrage will one-shot you. So yeah, so you do have to be careful. But generally speaking, this and the final encounter for the boss fight is where the Night Stalkers really shine in this Grandmaster. And I'm not typically one to want to like crutch on certain builds to beat certain missions, but I'm trying to farm this for the rocket launcher, so I want to just get it done. And it's already enough of a problem that the mission is bugged and not giving out platinum rewards when it should. So I just really wanted to get it done, and honestly I was having a lot of fun. The Gyrfalcon's Hauberk build for Night Stalker is one of my favorite builds in the game, and I'm saying this as someone who generally plays Titan most of the time. Like, I'm definitely a Titan main, but specifically for Hunter, I have a soft spot for Gyrfalcon's Hauberk ever since this exotic came out, what, a year ago? Just because it's kind of more of an aggressive play style for a Hunter, and I really like Void. But yeah. So Hunters definitely shine in this encounter here, because these wizards are just really tough in GMs because of their arc damage that they do, and they can cast their slowing cloud on you, so that you basically just get trapped in their cloud, and then they blast you with arc and you're dead. And I believe that the threat for the Grandmaster on the week that I'm doing it here, which is last week now, was an arc threat. I'm not 100% sure, but nonetheless, I'm using arc damage resistance on my chest plate alongside solar, because a lot of the acolytes are throwing pools of fire at you. But yeah, if you can go invis, then you so here's my one death. Yeah. So if you got invis, it's fairly easy. You can play a little bit risky and go into the thick of the fight and kind of assassinate the wizards, more or less, and then return to invisibility, and then you could dunk the tribute safely and basically escape back to your safe spot by the staircase until you're ready, you know, until you have enough ammo or you have the abilities that you need so that you can kind of go on a wizard killing spree. You do have to be wary of these non-champion ogres spawning. They tend to I think they always spawn with the second set of champions, and there's going to be, I believe there's 2. And they might not spawn at the same time, but when the second set of champions do spawn, be ready for ogres, because they can actually be more of a threat than the unstoppable ogres, because you can't stun them at all. So they're like just as deadly as the Shriekers, just as deadly as the Acolyte's Blade Barrage. Don't mess around with them. Fortunately, they're pretty weak and you can kill them very quickly, so you may as well. And then, speaking of maining a Titan, I did try to have a go at this Nightfall. Actually, the first time I ran this GM, which was blind. Of course, I did this PSI-OPS Moon Battlegrounds back in Season 16 with the Season of the Risen, but it was a little bit different back then, and it's been over a year, so obviously it needed a little bit of a refresher. But I made the mistake of going in with just like my Armamentarium Void Titan, with a couple other randoms on LFG. I don't even think we had an Invis Hunter. And we basically all died as soon as we entered this room. As soon as the 2 champions spawned, the Unstoppable just came and wiped us. So then I'm like, oh man, this is... And then I heard that people weren't getting platinum, so I just did a little bit of research online to see what people were using or recommending, and yeah, Invis Hunter's definitely a good way to go. But I did try to come back to it with the knowledge of how to, you know, beat this Nightfall properly, including the boss fight and everything. I wanted to try on my Strand Titan, because Strand, and specifically Strand Titan, does have a pretty, does offer some value to a fire team for this Grandmaster. If you got 2 Invis Hunters, that's typically enough, so it does help if you have like another build that can do crowd control. So Strand Titans are very good for that, but I didn't get enough practice time. I did 1 run with my Strand Titan and I died like 5 times, and then I literally we ran out of lives in the boss fight, and then the other teammate just left when he died because he saw there was no reses left, and so there was just 1 Omnioculus Hunter left, and I stayed for, I think it was only like, I think we only made it half, like through the first third of the boss's health in the boss fight, and then the team fell apart. I died after the champions were killed. My teammate died, the teammate left. I stuck around because I was the one that made the post, so I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave this guy high and dry. I'm just going to, you know, stick it out. And the Omnioculus Hunter soloed the rest of the Nightfall, and yeah. But I think if I got some more practice on Strand Titan, it would definitely be useful. It's just I was a little bit rusty. So I just basically went back to Night Stalker after that, because I've honestly been having a lot of fun with this Nightfall. I'm glad that they added it to the rotation. I was pretty skeptical with Mars Battlegrounds from last season, because I didn't really enjoy Mars Battlegrounds at all from the seasonal activity, so I didn't think I was going to enjoy it in a Nightfall format, especially Grandmaster. I did get it done just to get my Grandmaster or my Conqueror seal last season, but I just did it the once and I basically forgot about it, and I didn't really care about it that much. This is just like, I just think this is a beautifully designed strike. Like, this whole boss fight just looks super cool. You're fighting the aspects of Savathûn, so it's very intense. I like how they married like the two like the darkness and the light architecture, like the hive architecture. They're just kind of like intertwined together here, which I'm a huge fan of. I think basically all of the Witch Queen aesthetics from the throne world, and you know, just all of the hive aesthetics especially, I just really dig it. So yeah, I was and all of the encounters except for the bridge, which is all bugged, are interesting, like much more interesting than doing, say, Devil's Lair this week. Like, you actually have to have some strategy and come up with good builds and good team synergy to beat this thing. And one of the biggest challenges for this Nightfall is this boss fight, because the wizard is not really an issue. It's just basically a boss tier light bearer. You kill it, you finish the ghost. It's super tanky because it's like, you know, it's boss tier, but it's basically doing all the same things that a non-boss tier wizard would do to you. It's not like it doesn't feel more deadly than a non-boss tier light bearer. It just feels the same. It's just its health bar is cranked up to the max, and obviously it's damage gated, so you have to take it down in tiers. So for this first tier, for the first third of her health, you can basically stay back at the middle podium where you spawn in at. That is the safest spot to do damage all around throughout the entire boss fight. But you can also safely get up to one side and then damage the wizard from there. And it does help to have one person push up, just because she will, like a normal wizard, she's gonna hide, and then she's gonna regenerate her shield, and then she's only gonna come out when she casts her super. So it can be pretty annoying when you're all back here on the podium and then like the wizard just hides the whole time. So if you get one person to kind of pull aggro, then you can, you know, you're giving your teammates a better angle on the wizard as well. So once you do get her first tier of health down, then you get two champions again. You're going to get another unstoppable and a barrier that spawn along with the aspect of Savathun, one single aspect. These are the last two champions in the Nightfall. So make sure you got enough reses. Obviously, like, we're all pretty seasoned at this Nightfall by now. We didn't die very much, so revives was not really an issue for us. But you might want to consider that. That's the last two champs. So once you get, basically, once the wizard goes immune, then everybody can go back to the center podium and then just get rid of the champions from range. And then that way you've cleared up a spot in the middle of the map for you to go in and out and grab the spear and start damaging the aspect with the spear. So I like to wait for Savathun to... usually she'll cast her lightning strikes, and then she'll do like a barrage of lightning at you. And then every now and then she'll also cast a Nova Bomb, which seems to be completely random. But if you listen to her audio cues, you'll know what she's doing when. So just try and pick your timing wisely. The lightning strikes themselves is probably the most dangerous, because it sends out 3 forks of lightning, and you can't really predict where those 3 forks are going to go. And by the time they hit you, you're just dead. It's a one-shot and you're dead. At least when she does her barrage of lightning blast at you, you can jump up and down, and you can see it coming and evade it. And then for her Nova Bomb, you can kind of hear her cast that Nova Bombs, and just know to just keep moving. But yeah, ideally wait till she casts a lightning strike, and once you see that fork go out, then you can start making your way to the middle of the map and grab the spear, and then you could just basically go to one of the sides where there are less enemies, or have your teammates that are sitting back on the center podium, have them cover you while you're doing damage to the aspect of Savathûn with the spear. So once you get rid of the aspect, then the wizard comes back, and you can all basically just damage the wizard from far. I thought that you get an ogre that spawns. Maybe we already killed it. But yeah, so right now you can see my teammate is now in the same spot that I was for the first part of damaging the wizard. So he's kind of trying to pull aggro on the wizard so that we can get an angle on her. So other than that, it's kind of interesting that we ended up with all three of the best invis exotics for our Night Stalkers. We got one Graviton, one Omnioculus, one Gyrfalcons. If you're not running Omnioculus, it could be kind of looked down upon, like in the same way that Warlocks get kind of a bad rap if they go into a fire team mission or like a raid or a dungeon and they're not running Well of Radiance, which I don't agree with that. Like I think just let people run whatever they want to run. If they're not running something that's to your liking, oh well, go find a different fire team. I usually end up trying to run somewhat of a support build just to be a team player. And if I don't want to run a support build or whatever, then I just go and do something solo, or you know, I disclaim it up front. But yeah, you'll see oftentimes like there'll be fire team postings where only Omnioculus hunters are allowed, like only Wish Ender, like people just trying to filter out their teammates. But you know, obviously, just having the power of invisibility is enough. Like Omnioculus is nice because you can make your fire teams invisible, but that's about it. Like you get 2 smoke bombs, so technically it means you can go invis from Trapper's Ambush twice as often. But it doesn't change the fact that like the Night Stalker subclass just gives you, you know, you have Vanishing Step, you have Trapper's Ambush. Those are 2 aspects that you can have regardless of whatever exotic you want. Then on top of that, you can use Echo of Obscurity, which I'm using here, so that finishers make me invis. And I'm using Stylish Executioner as well, so with Gyrfalcons. So it means that basically everything that I kill at all times will make me invis. So whether you have Omnioculus or not, or you're just using another Void exotic, like you still have just as much power to be invisible. It's just Omnioculus is kind of clutch for going in and rezzing teammates that are dead. So if I see somebody posting like Omni Hunters only, I'm thinking that it's probably like a Titan or some class that wants to be aggressive, and he just wants to be able to get free revives or get free passage from point A to point B from the hunter. Which is fair enough, because people can post whatever they want and they can ask for whoever they want out of their fire team. So I don't disagree with that, but I enjoy random LFG runs when everybody's just chill and you know, like we all knew what we were doing here, so in the end it didn't really matter. But I would say if I was to try and run this solo, I would probably use Graviton Forfeit, and I would probably use Wish Ender, just because although I can just dodge and use my Commemoration to break barrier shields, there's because of the platinum bug and because of this room in particular killing the barriers, like a lot of that has to be done from long range, which can be a little bit difficult with the machine gun. And it is a bit risky to rely on heavy ammo to break barrier shields. If you're very careful with your ammo economy, then you know it could be okay, but yeah, there was definitely times where I had to rely on my teammates to break barrier shields. So that is kind of the one downfall. But also, I chose to run Tether, which is a support super. So even though I can't use Trapper's Ambush to make my teammates invisible, not like they need it because they're both hunters, at least I can provide my team with some support through Tether, which is better than Mobius Quiver for just overall debuff and duration. Like it lasts like 30 seconds, whereas Mobius Quiver is like 2 shots that last 5 or 10 seconds. So it's more burst damage. But yeah, I figured since I'm not running Omni or Trapper's Ambush, I figured the least I can do for for support is to run Tether instead of Mobius Quiver. But again, if I was to do this solo, even with Gyrfalcons, I would definitely use Mobius Quiver, because there could be, say for example, I can't break a barrier shield, or I'm having trouble, I don't have enough heavy ammo or whatever, I can use my super. That's free. You know, as long as I got my super, I can basically break the barrier shield once or get them weak enough to the point where I can just 2-shot them with my super to finish them off. So that would be kind of a solo strat, but I obviously haven't attempted to do this solo. If they fix the power differentials and the difficulty scaling that they completely messed up with Lightfall, I will go back to at least trying to do solo flawless master content when I can basically be at parity with the mission, because the mission itself is difficult enough to get through and stay alive. Like if it takes you 45 minutes to complete this, I've seen runs that are an hour plus for solo. It's going to take you roughly the same amount of time whether it's Master or Grandmaster. It's just less punishing as far as like being one shot by anything from anywhere, and like how tanky enemies are. It's just not fun to reload your magazine constantly to kill like trash ads. Whereas if you're trying to solo like a Grandmaster, then you're going to spend a long time just killing basic ads, and it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel like it's part of the challenge of the Nightfall. Like the challenge is the encounter, the enemy density, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so this was, I was hoping to get at least a flawless run, but I did have that one death thanks to the Shrieker. And I've got a bunch of Braytechs. I got one with cluster bomb destabilizing that, you know, I'll probably never use, but at least in my head I can potentially use it for ad clear. I got a whole bunch of golden tricorns, some envious assassin, so I got some decent stuff that I got to look over. But yeah, anyways, hope you enjoyed, even though this isn't a solo flawless video. At least it's something for you guys, and if you did, go ahead, leave that like, sub to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be trying to post regular content. I did a quick build overview in a shorts. If you guys want to check out my shorts, I'm kind of just experimenting with those because I've heard that it's pretty good for your channel. So I have this build specifically on my shorts, so you can check that out. Anyways, I will talk to you next time. Take care.